Hi, my name is Hyeok-Min Lee. I am a student from the Department of Computer Engineering at Korea Polytechnic University. It's my honor to present my topic today. And the purpose of presentation is to collect studies that have trained cognitive areas with computerized tools, explore trends, and analyze transport effects between cognitive areas through text network analysis. First, let me explain the background of study. According to World Population Prospects, 1 in 6 people in the world is 65 years or older, and the world population is becoming more aged. Furthermore, among the people 65 years or older, about 15 to 20% has the symptom of MCI, and about 15% of them are known to develop dementia. MCI stands for mild cognitive impairment. It was predicted that delaying the progression of MCI to dementia by 2 years can reduce the global incidence rates by 22.8 million cases and thus relieve the economic burden on individuals, families, and societies. MCI is generally caused by decreased cognitive abilities such as memory, judgment, concentration, and attention due to aging. It is reported that accurate and appropriate diagnosis and treatment can minimize the damage of the cognitive functions. Cognitive stimulation, rehabilitation, and training are known as improved cognitive abilities of MCI and differ depending on the intervention as a stretch to achieve the goal. The intervention based on cognitive stimulation and rehabilitation focuses more on the individuals with dementia to improve the general quality of life by overcoming specific difficulties in their daily living. Since cognitive training is applicable to patients with no cognitive or functional difficulties, it is more appropriate for patients with MCI. The goal of cognitive training is to improve the cognitive ability in a specific area through repetitive learning or design technique and strategy. Several studies are ongoing on improving cognitive function by using a variety of information technologies, including virtual reality, interactive video gaming, and mobile technology as intervention manner for cognitive training. Computerized cognitive training has the advantage of providing objective data and real-time feedback since the cost and time efficiency, accessibility, and difficulties can be specified for each user. Next, I will explain the needs and goals of the research. First, I'd like to define the computerized cognitive training, which I call CCT. CCT trains one or two cognitive abilities and take a lot of time to perform our areas. To solve these problems, you can reduce training time and identify relationships by analyzing transfer effects that improve other cognitive areas are not trained as adaptive manners to respond to your responses. Therefore, the purpose of in this paper, we collected literature discussing CCT up to December 2019 and analyzed the trends of cognitive training. It then investigated the transfer effects of CCT using the text network algorithm. As a searching strategy for this study used 4 databases: PubMed, EMBase, Cochrane Library, and Web of Science, to gather literature and analyze the published study results up to December 2019. The literature collection used the searching strategy by 4 types: study type, participant type, intervention type, and outcome type. Keywords used in searching literature were presented in the table, grouped each type based on 4 types of inclusion and exclusion criteria. Next is the selection process section of the study. A total of 888 papers were identified in 4 databases after the initial literature search, and 3 additional papers were collected by manual research for the references in the collected papers related to this study in Google Scholar. Through the literature identification process, the duplicate papers were removed, while through the eligibility process, the subjects and abstracts were reviewed, and those that did not meet the inclusion criteria were removed. The 82 literature included in eligibility process means studies using CCT for patients with MCI, and 18 literature in the included process means studies with positive clinical result for cognitive abilities using CCT for patients with MCI. The current study analyzes the trends of CCT using the 82 papers identified the eligibility process and perform a text network analysis using the 18 papers selected through the inclusion process. In this section, I will describe the trends of CCT. In the present work, the first identified paper on CCT was the studied by Medical published in 2007, and since the interest on CCT is ever increasing. It showed that the digitalization of cognitive training increased with the advancement of the digital contents technology. Table lists the countries of the institutions, the principal author of the 82 selected papers, to analysis in which countries the studies of CCT are active. The United States had the largest number of countries with 17 cases, and the most actively studied institutions were university institutions, according to the table. Left table is the top 10 journals ranked on the number of publications, and right table is top 10 journals on the number of citations in this study. In the collected research, impact factor in 2019 ranked number 1 in left table, scored 7.755 in the Cochrane database of systematic reviews, and labor study, cited ranked number 1 in right table, was cited 941 times. In particular, one of the study goals of labor study was to examine the effects of real depending on presence of interventions for global motor function, cognitive function, and activity limitation. Its main result showed that there was a statistically significant difference between the participants when using virtual reality with daily treatments and in activities of daily living also. This involves text network analysis using content package of our software to investigate the transfer effects of CCT. The text network can understand the characteristics of clustered keyword groups through location and relationship analysis using the visual expression of keywords. This method of analysis connections keyword in the literature with edges or links to visually express the connections. Furthermore, network clustering can build networks with various approaches, such as co-citation, bibliographic combination, co-order, and co-word analysis according to the analysis target and purpose. The degree centrality refers to the number of keywords linked with a keyword. A higher centrality indicates that the keyword is linked with many other keywords. However, the degree centrality only shows frequency of connection between the keywords. Therefore, it becomes necessary to analyze the closeness centrality. The closeness centrality calculates the direct connections between the keywords and indirect connections to calculate the distance between a keywords and all other keywords to extract the influential keywords. In other words, the index represents how close a keyword is with another keywords. Therefore, a higher closeness centrality signifies a higher possibility of diffusion to the connected keyword. Additionally, we calculated the betweenness centrality to evaluate what extent the keyword can play a mediating role in the connections between other keywords in the network. In this study, network of CCT contains presence of a high betweenness centrality means that the contents can play a role in connecting other disconnected cognitive domains. This section describes the characteristics of the included studies. Table shows the number of participants and characteristics of the research method in the 18 papers needed for the analysis of clinical trials among the collected 82 papers. The number of participants was more than 10. The age of participants in the study by Gangnom and Ballesteros was over 60, but the studies did not disclose the number of participants by gender. However, they mentioned that there was no statistical difference between the participants, and we included them in the analysis. In all the studies, the participants had no disease or neurological problem other than MCI and did not take any drug. There were also no clinical ethical problems. The participants had at least 6 years of education in most of the studies, and the studies stated the processes. Table lists the intervention manner and contents of CCT in the 18 papers that reported the effectiveness of clinical trials. Computer was the most widely used tool for CCT, while video and virtual reality were used as the medium. As table shows, the comparative experimental studies that used computers and video games together as a training tool accounted for the most, and Nintendo or iPad were used as the media of the video game. Memory accounted for the most of the cognitive domain targeted by training, and a variety of contents were performed for it. The most frequent memory training method used by the 1830s was NPEC. The training was conducted with one or two target cognitive areas to each content, and the training period varied widely between 1 week and 12 months. The types of CCT and targeted cognitive domains of the aforementioned included research papers were visualized through the analysis of the text network, and the main keywords in the text network were indicated as bird. Here, CCT contents was connected to memory contents, attention contents, executive contents, and ADR contents. Separately, the intervention type was connected to real, computer, and video, and the target cognitive domain was connected to memory, attention, executive, and ADR. The connecting line between the keywords became thicker as the centrality index became higher, and a thicker represented a stronger correlation between the keywords. Table lists the calculation results of the centrality insights shown in figure. In the degree centrality index, which means the frequency of use, the frequency of CCT contents was 33 memory, 16 attention, and 5 ADR, 3 executive functions, with memory contents the most. Although the frequency of memory training contents was more than twice that of the attention contents, when analyzes only the degree centrality, they showed similar scores of 0.387 and 0.381, respectively, in the closest centrality index. It means that the semantic distance between the memory training contents and attention training contents is short, and implied that performing memory training would be effectiveness for the attention domain also. In the witness centrality index, the memory training contents were the highest with frequency 64, indicating that it is likely to be used more widely. This is the conclusion section in this study. Study on CCT collected in this paper are increasing every year, and the countries and institutions to which the main other belongs are the largest in the United States and university institutions. This trend seems to be a steady increase in research on efficient education suitable for patients due to the development of digital contents. And this is the conclusion of transfer effect of CCT. In the degree centrality index, memory training was more than twice as different as attention training, but a similar score was delivered for closeness centrality index. It indicates that the two contents training processes may be similar and that a transfer effect may appear between the two domains. The attention contents generally receive a higher score as more items are processed simultaneously in a shorter period, and the memory contents receive a higher score as more items are stored longer in memory. Therefore, we can consider that the two domains are related because it is necessary to pay more attention to process the items simultaneously in a short period when more items are stored in the memory. In future studies, we need to analyze the effectiveness of the collective literature and study the most effective contents in each area, and more sampling should be done. Through this, it will be possible to verify the effectiveness of CCT in patients with MCI as a digital treatment to treat disease without drug intervention. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your listening.